This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My co-host today with me is C.R. Rice, and our guest is the amazing Maria Devivo. Woo! Woo! We're super excited. We're actually talking to Maria on a book release day.
Yay!
Right? Yes, that is super exciting. Okay, let's talk about what we're drinking first. So, our podcast is sponsored by Skunk Brothers Spirits, DWA 10. Check them out. Veteran owned, they're amazing. Today I've decided to steal something from CR's playbook. So this is one of my Drinking with Authors swag cups, but I have vodka and cranberry because I'm being healthy. Real cranberry juice.
There you go. You just got to throw a little bit of key lime on top.
I threw a little bit of lime in it, not key lime.
There you go.
I'm super fancy today. It's fine. CR, what are you drinking?
So this one is weird because we're trying to come up with a weird like four horsemen drinks. So this one is rum, and then you know the new Coke that came out, the little cotton candy one. I think it's called Starlight. Yeah, and then I did that, and then there's strawberries in here, and we're gonna call it War.
War. Okay, I like that you just described it all that way, and then you're like, we're gonna call it War.
We're gonna call it War.
Okay, Maria, what are you drinking?
Well, I have, it's kind of like my take on a White Russian. It's Screwball peanut butter whiskey with Godiva chocolate liqueur and milk.
Oh, wow.
So it's peanut butter chocolate milk?
It's like a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like a peanut butter cup. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. So, Maria, for those out there that may not know, what do you write?
I write dark fantasy and horror, YA and adult. That's my gig.
Very, very cool. And your release, we should talk about that momentarily, and then we'll go into all about you stuff. So what just came out?
Well, my first book with 4 Horsemen just came out today. It's called Witch of the Black Circle. And it is the first in the Dawn of the Blood Witch series. And it's a cult horror. So super adult, so super gory, so super sexy, and so super witchy.
And it is based, if I recall correctly, from something your mother talked about, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about that.
Okay, so just briefly, because I don't want to give too much away in the book, but the whole premise of the book is that it takes place in the 1980s Satanic Panic era, right? And a lot of it was drawn from things that like I heard about in the news at the time, you know, growing up on Long Island as a kid in the 80s, you know, like the whole grr of it all. So my mom had told me this story that when she was pregnant with me, she went to do some like babysitting job for like this family. And the mom was like, yeah, I just kind of need you in the morning to get the kids ready for school and blah, 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 blah. And she told me that when she went into their apartment, the apartment was like goth to the max. There were paintings on the walls of like headless people and all this like satanic weird looking stuff. And there was a library with all these books in it. And she always got like this weird feeling from being in this apartment, you know? And she said when she would go in on the refrigerator, there'd be these little like notes on magnets that said, Brotherhood meeting 7 p.m. Sisterhood meeting 6 p.m. And she said it was just like really weird, though she got a very creepy vibe from them. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I just ran with it.
That's very cool. It's so funny because, you know, we put out the anthology Teen Angst, and one of the things I wrote about it in Vol 1, Vol 2 is coming out here soon, is I grew up when Dungeons and Dragons, where they talked about how this was satanic and what we were doing and the devil worship and all this other stuff. And my mom was like, well, at least you're not getting drunk and getting high with friends. Have fun storming the castle. Yeah, exactly. I was just like, oh, okay. But
I mean, if you gotta think Dungeons and Dragons over drugs and alcohol for little kids, you gotta go with the Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, what's really funny is if you could time travel, best Scooby-Doo back then, it was so ridiculed in the press. Dungeons and Dragons was just so ridiculed. And now everybody's like, Dungeons and Dragons, look at my dice. And I was like, yeah, we had to hide. And you didn't say you played Dungeons and Dragons.
No,
People thought you were a Satan worshiper. And I was like, okay. I mean, cool to all the Satan worshipers, whatever. But it was just like a really weird thing in the 80s and stuff. Got them all. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Maria, when did you start writing?
Well, I think I've always been a writer, like deep in my soul from the time I was born. But I started like professionally, I guess I could say 2010.
What made you decide to take the leap?
Well, like my daughter was born, my daughter was born in 2009. And like I was settled in my house and in my job and with my marriage, like everything was just like wonderful. And I'm like, there's still one thing I haven't done. And I got to do it. And my husband's like, all right, do it. You know, like what are you talking about? Just do it. Like you want to do it, just do it. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do it. And then I just resigned to do it.
That is awesome. Yay for supportive partners out there. I don't think we give shout outs enough for those supportive partners out there that are like, cool, you want to go write about satanic witch cults? You go do that. You do it.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than that too, because you have does anybody else do the have conversations where like they're talking to you and for some reason what they say either triggers something or your mind starts wandering. So then you just sit there like this and you're already doing something else. But they just sit there supportively, knowing you've checked out.
Yeah. Moved on to a conversation I'm having with one of my characters.
Exactly.
I'm good. Hashtag living the dream.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's amazing. So what was the first thing you published? So you decide you have your adorable baby girl. You decide to, was the first thing that you published?
I published my young adult dark fantasy book, The Coal Elf. And it's about elves at the North Pole who mine coal for the naughty kids at Christmas. So it's kind of like I live in the weird, like weird is my home. So I had to take something as beautiful and magical as Christmas and kind of turn it dark and scary. So like we all know, we all know the legend, right? Like if you're bad, you're getting coal in your stocking, but who puts it there? How is it getting there? Right? So I made up this story about them.
I think that's brilliant because they never explained that.
Right.
I
never knew that
puts
if you
the
were
coal
bad.
there.
I never knew that if you were bad, you got coal.
What?
I never knew that if you were bad, you got coal. My parents always just told me you just didn't get presents.
Yeah, your parents.
I didn't know a lot of things until we moved to North Carolina, and a friend of mine was like, yeah, I got the, when those little chocolates came out that looked like coal, she's like, I'm going to stick this in my little brother's, so he's all upset. I'm like, why would he be upset? And she's like, because you get coal. And I'm like, why would you give him coal? That's super unhealthy. And she's like, no, because he annoyed me, so he was bad, so he gets coal.
Dude.
I was like, cool.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
no,
sorry.
it was, I feel like getting no presents is better than getting coal. Like, I feel like it's better to know that story.
Well, because like if you're like all excited and you open up, you go into your stocking and you reach into the stocking and you pull out a handful of black crap. Oh, can I curse? Am I like?
Yeah, this is a fucking adult podcast. We can fucking say whatever the fuck we want
with alcohol.
No, because listen,
alcohol. Yesterday we were talking about porn. It's fine.
Okay, because I'm in front of 7th graders all day, so it's like I gotta tone it down. So fuck that shit.
I'm surprised you have to tone it down. They're fucking 7th graders. They probably curse worse than you do.
Right? More inventive too.
Oh my God, yeah.
So your first book comes out. Did you go traditional or self when you did the first one?
I went indie. I did indie. Yeah. It got, now listen to this one. It got rejected like over 100 times. I think I stopped counting at 100. And it was very soul crushing, because I'm like, I'm never going to get this shit published. I'm whatever, And finally, like eventually I had gotten an email from Twilight Times. They were the ones who published it. And they were like, oh yeah, it ended up in our spam box and we want it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, let's do this. So
I like it.
that was kind of neat.
Does that make you wonder, like, do publishers, you know, end up in a spam folder? That means it's an unknown address. That's how things get into spam. Do you think that like publishers purposely do those things? And only
sure.
like dig into it when they need new books?
I'm going to say I wouldn't be surprised. I think part of the thing, and it also depends on the publisher, is I think people don't set up things to be scalable.
Right.
And so they can hit a point of inundation and they just don't do it. I've told this story before on the podcast where, you know, when I was first submitting my book, and I went with small press before I created Four Horsemen, but one of the things that I got back, and I should have saved it, maybe I did, and then I don't know where I put it, but it was a copy of a rejection letter that was mailed to me. Like they put it on the photocopier and copied it, and it got a little askew, and then copied it again, the copy of the copy. Like you can tell when, you know, and I was like, wow, they're not even, apparently I don't even warrant printing off a fresh rejection letter, or it's okay with me, a clean copy of the rejection letter. It was a copy of the copy. And I was like, this is soul crushing for authors to receive something like that. Totally get it if my work is not what you want to see or whatever, right? But I almost go, you have to say what it is about it that is not acceptable. Like
yep.
You need to, and I think that people should, like, you just go, listen, we didn't actually even read it because we saw it was horror and we don't publish horror. Here you go. Right.
That's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we're not even going to look at it. We reviewed it, but it had a lot of grammatical errors and things like that. I would suggest, you know, doing some classes and resubmit, whatever, you know what I mean? Like something, but don't just go, copy, because you don't even know if somebody touched it. Was it a real rejection or did you just get it in the mail, put it in the rejection thing and mail it out? Like, anyway.
Editor ran out of time, was running behind, and it's like, rejection.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. But there are a lot of people that passed on amazing books that hit #1 in spots. And yeah, they're, you know, look how many, what is 176 people rejected Stephen King?
Yep.
Oh, I bet none of them are happy
hundreds that
themselves.
rejected J.K. Rowling. And now there's a fucking amusement park. Like, are you kidding me?
Anyway, so then let's go on your journey here. So you get an indie and the book comes out. What happens then?
Well, okay, so interesting story. Simultaneously, as I was signing a contract with that publisher, like 2 weeks later, I got an agent. And I got an agent for the second book that I had written, which was The Altered, which is my YA zombie horror, psychological horror. So I was signing with an agent, I was signing with the publisher. It was, you know, high life on the farm back then. Yeah. And, you know, things were like, it was great. And then I'm with this agent and I keep hearing, I don't know how to sell you. I don't know how to market you. I don't know how to blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're up in your book and Darren Shan's book. Okay, who's going to win out there? You know, like, so it was just one thing after the other, I was with this agent for about, oh gosh, I want to say 4 years and nothing happened.
Wow.
Zero. And, you know I'm not everybody's cup of tea because, you know, I'm dark, I'm weird, I'm quirky. Not everybody's going to like what I have to say. And that's fine. I've resigned to that fact. But yeah, so nothing happened. So I had like a 4-year time period where it was like, whoa. And I was writing, you know, every summer because I'm a teacher. So I teach in the 10 months of teaching. And then summer months is when I do my writing. So I've been writing, and I wrote the sequel to The Coal Elf, and I wrote the sequel to The Altered, and then I started another book and another series, and like, so finally I was like, all right, agent, we gotta, so we parted ways, and I I found another home for my horror series, The Altered. So then I went, so now I've got 2 publishers on that front. And then, yeah, I was like, I need to take a shot at adult stuff because I've been writing YA for quite some time. And I'm like, I think we need to take this a little bit farther.
I think that's awesome. It's interesting you say that about the agent, because I think some agents can be amazing for writers, but
Yes.
when an agent has you for 4 years and can't figure out, I'm like, fail, just like a big gigantic red fail stamp on the forehead for that particular person.
Yeah.
Because it's your job. You can't possibly make money unless you get her books out. And anyway, that's
Exactly. So, I mean, you know, and then I had heard, you know, oh, it's better to have no agent than to have a bad agent. But my agent wasn't bad. I mean, we left on amicable terms and all of that, but 4 years, nothing.
well, I don't, you're being very generous. I think what you're saying, your agent wasn't bad. They weren't good for you.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So you took this journey and you're a teacher, which is, I always think fascinating, because what do you teach?
I teach language arts and journalism, 7th grade and 8th grade.
Very cool. So did you go to, you had to go to school to be a teacher, right? Is that what you wanted to be? Were you like, I'm going to be a teacher?
No, actually. Yes and no.
Okay.
Because I always wanted to be a writer. So in my child brain, right, I'm like, well, I want to be a teacher because I have to have my summers off. You know, when I'm like 7 years old, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing what my dad does and working in the summer. No way. Get out of here. So that was one reason. And then I'm like, oh, I can be an author because that's what I really want to be. And I can write in the summer when I'm not teaching children. So it kind of just like developed from there. I was real young when I knew I wanted to teach, when I knew I wanted to write. So I've always had that like life path.
That's very cool. Not a lot of people can say that. That's really awesome. We know you're weird and quirky. What made you decide to go the dark fantasy horror route though?
Okay, so my mom, she keeps popping up these days, man. She's been gone. I lost her 2 months ago. So like, it's kind of like, oh, to talk about her is very cathartic, I guess. She influenced me a lot. She really did. When I was 3, she took me to my first horror movie, and it was Creep Show.
No, I
and it was, you know,
remember
that anthology, you know, there's like 3 different short, you know, whatever. And I remember sitting in her lap and she thought that I was asleep the whole time. But mind you, I'm like this, right? And I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, and then I'd look up and like, I was so fascinated, you know? And I just wanted to see more because it creeped me out, but it like, I don't know, it's awe-inspiring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I like this. And something just kind of clicked and I've been weird ever since.
No, that makes sense. I would say that my dad let me go to The Exorcist when it came out. That was, and I write horror. Like I went and saw that, zombies, the whole 9 yards. I think that's completely, and yes. But you know, somebody was talking one time on this podcast about almost the like adrenaline you get from being put in a frightened position or like scared. Like there's almost like I don't know what they called it. Like a euphoric high.
Yes, it is very euphoric.
Chelsea, do you get euphoric when being startled and frightened to death? Is that good?
I don't leave my house that often, so it's really difficult for me to get scared. But I will say, if I find a bug in the middle of the night, no, it is not cathartic. It is terrifying, and I consider burning my house down. So no. So I guess the answer to that's no. I do not find it cathartic.
Oh my God. Bug story. Here's the bug story of the day as we're drinking and talking about things. My boyfriend was doing the dishes earlier and we moved to North Carolina and we are effectively on a mountain and there's a lot of wilderness around our house. And he sends me a picture because there was a spider that had gotten into the sink and it was sitting on like the underside of a cup like
Uh-huh.
under here.
Was it the spider crickets though, or was it an actual spider?
No, it was a spider, like a little, yeah.
Okay.
And it was so funny. And I'm like, you gotta love nature. I don't know. He may have thrown that cup away. Like, he may have been like, and we're done.
I don't mess with bugs. My worst one was I had to get up and I had to go to the bathroom. It was like 2 a.m. and I was like, how did Zay sock get in the bathroom? So I went to reach for it and then I was like, wait a second, he doesn't wear socks. So I turned the light on and there was a spider. It was like this fucking big and I almost picked it up. Immediately screamed, have to go over dramatic. Corey came in, tried to kill it, like sprayed it with the home defense. It just bucked up against him like it was gonna fight him. Like it was not going down. It's like, no, thank you. No.
I made a deal with the spiders in my house. I said to them, look, you can stay here as long as I don't see you. You can live in the walls, you can crawl on the baseboards, like I don't care. You're beneficial to my life. It's all good. You come out, I'm gonna kill your ass.
Right. I say that to the ones outside. Like you stay in your zone. I get it. I'm outside your house. This is my house. Like
Right.
we will fight.
Yeah,
I will
can
get a
stay here.
blowtorch. Yeah. I don't do bugs,
Yeah,
bugs
see,
and clouds. Those are my two things.
One thing I'm super excited about, I'm not saying they're not here at all, but I haven't seen a palmetto bug since I've
No,
moved
you'll
to
see
North
spider
Carolina.
crickets.
Oh, you lucky bitch.
Yes,
Yes.
Fuck
Fuck those things.
an ass ton of spiders, but not a single palmetto bug.
Wait until you go to get in the shower and you notice those spider crickets crawl out of your drain. So when you turn it on, they freak the fuck out and try to attack you in your shower.
Yeah,
Wait,
you have
for
those.
it.
Yeah,
Those
see,
are
the thing is,
horrifying.
I'm one of those people that the only bugs that bother me, honestly, are palmetto bugs if they fly and land on me.
They
Yes,
fly?
Yeah, they fly.
girl. Yes.
If you're watching the YouTube, you get to see Chelsea's face in this. It's kind of brilliant.
Oh my God.
You didn't know they fly?
No, I didn't know they fly.
20, 30 feet in the air. Like they're not low flyers. They're not like the chicken of bugs. They will
Oh my
take
God.
off.
No, so we have pest control, so we don't mess with that. But when the first move down here, we had no idea about those things. And I walked into the house and they were just there. Like they keep a very clean house. And I was like, there's a fucking carpet. And like somebody that my husband knew was like, that's not what it is. It's called this. Never seen one fly. I've seen it chase me.
Yeah.
And I have seen
No,
them
they can launch.
hurry faster.
Yeah, no, they can launch and fly.
One fell out of my curtain one time and I went to open them and I decided we were moving. That was it. We were just leaving the house, abandoning everything.
Oh my goodness.
I
Well,
didn't know they flew. Oh God.
Well, now you
okay, they're
know.
not near hair. Calm down. You'd feel them. They're
Bugs.
huge. The only other thing I don't
know.
like is maggots.
Those don't bother me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan
I
of the
grew up in the
maggots.
South. They basically look like grits. It doesn't bother me.
I'm a
Doesn't
northern
bother me.
girl, so I don't even eat grits. Like,
Oh, I don't eat them. They look like farina. Like, do you guys
Oh.
have farina? Yeah, that's basically what they look like. Like if you let it get too dry and stuff. Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
but they move. So
Yes.
I'm not
Yes,
gonna
they
lie,
do.
this podcast is taking a weird turn.
it truly is.
As we're talking about those things. Okay, so my question for you, Maria, is what does scare you?
Ooh, what does scare me? That's a good question. Not much. I mean, like normal, like regular things. Like I worry a lot about my kid. Like, okay, is she gonna get kidnapped? Is she gonna get murdered? You know, that sort of thing. That freaks me out. Like the realities. But as far as like otherworldly, supernatural zombies, tornadoes. I have to say, I freak the fuck out with tornadoes.
Interesting.
And I live
lived
in Florida.
in New Mexico, and they had quite a few of those actually, and in Wisconsin, like there's also Tornado Alley, which is like Oklahoma and Texas and stuff like that.
Arizona and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that is interesting. What about you, Chels? What scares you?
Aside from bugs, nothing.
Apparently, aside from the flying,
The fact that they fly is gonna haunt me in my dreams. I just want you both to be aware of that. I have never seen one fly. I've lived down here for 3 years now. It's going to haunt me.
well,
Yeah.
what's going to happen now is one of them's going to fly at you because that's
Yeah.
how like irony
Move.
works.
I will leave the state. I will not do it.
I got a guest room. You can come visit me. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'm just show up with all my bags, like, hey, Erica.
If Chelsea shows up, I'll be like, there was a palmetto bug flew at her. It's fine. She moved. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Exactly. What
We
about
are
you,
going to take
Erica?
a quick break and we will be right back with Drinking with Authors.
Sample locally sourced, quality distilled spirits in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge. At Skunk Brothers Distillery, we're family owned, brewing small batch grain to bottle spirits, just like our grandfather did back in the Prohibition era. From handcrafted bourbons and moonshine to flavored blends and cordials infused with local fruit. Join us for a tasting tour and buy Skunk Brothers spirits straight from the source.
It's all in the family at Skunk Brothers Spirits, located in Stevenson, Washington.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit. Do you read a lot? I'm assuming you do, Maria. No? Okay. I was wrong. I assumed wrong.
Okay, wait, let me, can I justify it though?
Oh, she go ahead. Justify
Making
what?
excuses. Let's do it.
No, I'm honestly, I really have to admit, I'm a terrible, horrible reader, horrible. But I think my excuse for that is that I'm stuck in 7th grade. So I read what the kids read, you know, when the kids read it. So I think I've read The Outsiders like 200 times. Like I could recite that book inside and out probably. So like, I don't have time. And then when I'm like, if I'm reading a book, I'm like, shit, I could be writing a book right now. So it's a whole balance of time that I'm not very good at.
No, it makes sense. I've gotten to listening to audiobooks a lot more. I used to read a ton. The other thing I stopped doing recently is I got in the habit of turning on the TV right before bed, and then I wasn't reading. And so I used to read all the time right before I go to bed because that would be the time I could read, right? Like and so now I'm reading again right before I go to bed.
That's
But
good.
yeah, audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks when I drive places, which is fantastical. I do a lot of driving. So audiobooks, I'll take them with me into the grocery store because I don't need to fucking talk to anybody who's in the grocery store.
Right.
Please and thank you. Unless it's a lovely Publix associate and I'm looking for rhubarb because I realize, not rhubarb. Yeah, rhubarb. And I realized I don't even know what rhubarb fucking looks like. So
Looks like
I got a
purple
story.
celery.
Yeah, well, I got to the store and it had a recipe and I was like, it is occurring to me that I've never seen rhubarb in real life.
Yeah, it used to grow in my mom's backyard when we lived in New Hampshire. That used to be our snack. You'd just break off a stalk and eat it. Blew
Rhubarb?
Corey's mind. Yes.
Really?
You just go, yes. Blew Corey's mind when he went to my parents' house. He's like, what the fuck are you eating grass for? I was like, it's not grass, sir. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's
tastes
a purple, it looks like celery. It's kind of bitter, kind of sweet. It's fucking rhubarb. It's
Rhubarb.
You ever eat something that's like it has a little bit of sweetness, then like that tart right after?
Yes, they're called Sour Patch Kids.
Right.
Yeah, but they're not as delicious as Sour Patch Kids. Once you get older and you have Sour Patch Kids, you realize rhubarb's not that great.
No, but regardless, I had to look for this at the Publix, but generally I put the earpods in and I walk around Publix or grocery stores or doing laundry and I listen to audiobooks because if you think about it, there's a lot of time you do chores and crap like that, right?
Right.
So perfect
Why
time
not?
to read a book.
I can't do that. I can't do audiobooks. I'm
Really?
half deaf in my right ear. So to listen to something, I can't focus. Like I don't know what it is. I can't. I gotta sit and read it. And like on a Kindle, like an ebook, forget it. I need the real thing. I need the actual book in my hand.
I think a lot of people are like that. They want the physical, tactile,
Yes.
smell and no, I'm a besides books I get from amazing authors, I had do a lot of e-reading because I've had a book fall on my face while I was sleeping, like because I fell asleep. And I'm not gonna lie, presently I'm reading a book that was signed by an author. And last night, no lie, bam. Was like,
Oh, shit.
I'm like, this reminds me why I have an e-reader, because
Right? Boom.
it fell literally right on my face. And I was like, that's fantastic. Okay, now I'm up. I'll read another chapter.
Right. Why not?
When you do read besides The Outsiders, which by the way is a great book,
Fantastic.
what kind of genres do you read? Do you read horror?
I do. I love true crime. So
Oh,
I'll
me too.
read.
I'm an
Yeah.
addict.
Yeah. I watch Forensic Files like every night. So anything that's true crime, real life, because that like I said before, like I find like the reality of what people are capable of doing is scarier than devils and witches and werewolves and vampires. Like to me, the realness of it is far beyond, horror.
Well, I think it's true. I think even when you're writing, it's interesting because when you talk about writing something fantastical, right? And then somebody does something like I had a situation happen. I do HR for a living as a day job right now. And I had something happen, and I swear, like me and a couple other people that work with me were talking about it, that if I wrote it as a story, everybody would think it was the most ridiculous thing and that could never happen ever. But it happened. Right. But if I wrote it and published it exactly the way it happened, no fictionalizing besides maybe the names, like people would be like, this is bullshit, this would never happen. And I'm like, but it happened.
Right. Right.
It's so interesting. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Dreams. I dream like very vividly. I listened to my kids talk. Well, when I was writing like YA, I would listen to them talking like in the hallway, and then I would take bits and pieces of that. I draw a lot upon shit that happened to me when I was a kid growing up. I mean, I've seen some pretty messed up stuff, been involved in messed up stuff. So I just kind of like pick and choose stuff from real life, I guess. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. I just always think it's because I know your mom told you the story, but where do you get inspired? I do a lot of people watching. I just want the world to know that because I write horror, that I do a lot of people watching and get my inspiration because I see stuff. It's been harder the last couple of years since everybody's hidden in their house, but and then you go, well, how could that go completely fucking wrong?
Right. Yep.
Yep. So, okay, so let's talk about your writing process. What is your mojo? Where does the writing occur? Do you have to be alone in a dark room with one light bulb lamp, writing in complete silence?
Right, with candles lit and the whole nine, right?
Yeah, somebody's doing a seance.
Screaming soundtrack playing.
Okay, so this is gonna sound, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm gonna, fuck it, I don't care. Like around, I would say like April-ish, when my kids are like state testing, that's when I get my most ideas, because they're all sitting in a room, they're all like being quiet, they're all working, and I'm just kind of sitting there staring at them. And I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And that's when I'm in that calm mode, that's when like the voices start to. So like during state testing time, I'm sitting there and I'll just like jot down bullet points, right? And that's how it, like things start to kind of come together. Always in the springtime for whatever reason. And then come summertime, my daughter, she's 13 now. So she's like she can take care of herself, whatever, let her fend for herself. My husband will go to work, my kid will be off camp, friends, whatever. And I just have like a 3 days, 4 days a week where I'm just like at the computer, knocking it out. I do like a chapter outline before I start writing, just bullet points, dialogue, whatever comes to my head. Like I know how I want the chapter to begin and I know how I want it to end. And when I sit down, that's kind of when everything kind of comes together. But yeah, I'm definitely a summer writer, and that's like I carve out my time because I have to be very disciplined. Things are going to change now though, because I'm working on this new series, and apparently my publisher wants 2 books a year. So I have
Your
to.
publisher would like 3 books a year, but.
Well, my publisher's getting 3 books a year this year. So, you know.
Wait for it. They'll stretch it out somehow. Don't worry.
I'll figure it out. Like I'm gonna have to adjust like during the school year, and that's fine because you know what? This is gonna be my 23rd year of teaching. So I'm kind of like on autopilot right now. Like the light is at the end of the tunnel and I could see it. Like my exit strategy is happening, you know? So it's gonna be fine. Like I'm just gonna have to rearrange that 2nd book for the year. But I got this.
I have no doubt you do on many levels. But let's talk about your fans. So your first book came out about the Cole and the Elves, right?
Yes.
And then the 2nd book came out about the zombie kids.
No, that book didn't come out second.
Oh,
No. So wait, so really, really quick. I wrote the zombie book in 2011. I wrote the Cole Elf in 2010. It didn't come out until 2012. I wrote the zombie book in 2011. That didn't come out until 2020. Ooh.
wow.
Yeah. So I published the whole trilogy of the Cole Elf, 2012, 2015, 2017. And then the Altered came out after that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
I
There,
graduated,
There
I
was so
went
much
from-
time in between it, or was it just it took you more time to write the other ones, or
no,
was
it's
it
because
just
I was laid up with that whole 4-year gap with that agent that did.
okay,
Right.
Gotcha.
So in
Caught
that
that gap.
time when I was with that agent, when nothing was happening, I was still writing, and the publisher who did the Cole Elf was like, well, if you have the sequel and the last in the series done, she's like, what are you sitting on it for? Let's just do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Get new material out there in the interim.
So what was it like fan reaction when you got your first fan reactions?
It was really cool. It was like, you know, it was like, oh, because it was also like a local kind of thing. You know, I was doing the schools in the area. I was doing all like author talks at the schools and literacy week and the Great American Teach-In. So it was kind of cool. And then like, I remember I rolled up to a McDonald's. I'm in the drive-thru at McDonald's this one time. And the girl who was working the register was like, oh, you talked at my school, you're that author. And I'm like, yeah, I'm that author. Like it was kind of neat. Like it was a nice feeling. It was definitely like, okay, I'm getting recognized. Yay.
That's very cool. What about reviews? When reviews started to come in?
Okay, so when the reviews start coming in, for the most part, like in the beginning, like they were positive, whatever. But then when that first like negative review hit, that like gut punch, you know, like, oh, takes your breath away. I mean, I've been in the game so long now, like I just look at it and I'm like, okay, it is what it is. I'm not everybody's cup of tea and not everybody's gonna like it, and that's okay. That's fine.
Okay.
So you got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to have a thick skin, because if you don't have a thick skin, this isn't for you. This business isn't for you.
No, that's true. And I think, you know, again, I always tell authors, you know, you can read your reviews you want to, because that's the method of feedback you're getting, right? Like this is how you are receiving communication from your fans sometimes. But there are all kinds of people out on the interwebs, you know? It's like, have you ever used a dating website? If you have, you know what it's like to be an author and receive reviews.
Exactly.
Sometimes even start off positive and then turn into something quite ridiculous when you're
right. Like I always say, I would rather, and I know this is going to sound bizarre, but I would rather get a negative review that gave me specific details so I know that that person actually read the book, and they say that like this is what they didn't like and this is what they didn't jive with, and like give me that constructive criticism. I'm okay with that. I can take that instead of just saying this book sucked. I would rather have that, like a detailed negative, than a positive review that just says, yeah, this book was great, I really liked it, enjoyed it, 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever, because you're not telling me anything. Well, what did you like about the book? Are you just saying that you liked it just to like throw something my way? Like, I don't know. I would rather have a detailed negative than a vague positive, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. A friend of mine, and actually somebody I write with, Austin Collins, he wrote a great blog article once called like the 7 ways to review a book or something like that. And it talks about like all those points, because somebody going, this was great. Actually, cool. Thank you. It was great, but it does pretty much nothing for me when you just say
as
that.
The author,
because
I don't, what was great? So I can continue doing that. Tell me what was great. So.
Exactly.
The thing that gets me is when people try to argue with you about what your story was or the people in it, or tell you that your characters are terrible people. And you're like, wait, like, what are you talking about?
Right.
You get all offended and in your feelings, like, hold on, like, I wrote this, I know what this is about. And they're like, no, you don't. It's like, oh, okay.
Okay, I guess I don't.
Like, touche, my friend.
Wow. Yeah, no. I've just been called names in reviews, so that's what's happened to me.
I just get the weirdest interactions with people. I have never been called anything mean, Erica, so I feel like we have a story we need to listen to.
No, I think I've said it before. I had a reviewer say that Erica Lance is an author that likes to punch you in the fucking face.
I feel like that's a compliment.
Here's the thing. I write horror stories, but they don't have happy endings. None of them have a good ending. Nobody walks away unscathed and doing well. So anybody, and I warn people about that. Like, hi, this doesn't have a happy ending. You want to buy it from me? Go ahead. It even says it on the backs of the books. Like,
sure,
this is not going to end well. But it was a 5-star review, but he was like you. And then I used to go to public prose reading, right? It was a great group, Wordier Than Thou. It's in the Tampa Bay area. And they had an open mic night. So I'd take my little short stories and I'd go read them there. Well, I got to be kind of known for how the stories would end. So there would be people that, like, you know, I always felt good, not when, you know, anybody clapped or cheered, but when I walked away and they were like, what just happened? like if I fucked up their universe, I felt like, okay, cool, this story, this does it. If everybody was like, oh my God, that was the best thing ever, I'm like, I'm rewriting that ending, because that is not the result.
You should switch it up, and one time just give a happily ever after. That way people are like, no, this is when it's coming. Hold on. Everybody's super happy. What? Just wait for it. And then you just walk away.
For nobody, it wouldn't end. I'd walk off and then be like, she's coming back. It's okay. Well, I'll just sit here. It'd be a really awkward situation.
It would be awesome.
It's hysterical. Okay, Chelsea, over to you. Question.
So you have a new series coming out, and I know you said you have 2 books that you have to do this year. Is this a part of, like, does it derive from any of your other series, or is it something completely new? And is it like a trilogy, or is it an extended series?
Okay, so Dawn of the Blood Witch, brand new series, right? It's like all, how can I explain this? So they're all connected in some level, some form, Like, but you can read each book as a standalone. So if you wanted to pick up like, you know, whatever, when I get to it, I haven't written it yet, Erica. Book 7, if you just wanted to pick up book 7 and read it, it would be fine. You wouldn't need the context of the other books to understand what was happening. But they're all connected, and it's all going to come to fruition by the 10th book.
Okay.
If it goes beyond that, I don't know.
Be careful how you phrase things, Maria. Just be very careful.
I know.
You'll
I
get
think,
roped
I
into
think
something.
books should go, I think books and series should go as long as the author is enjoying writing them and the audience is enjoying reading them.
I agree.
You know, I think sometimes they go beyond one of those two things, whichever thing it is that, you know what I mean, we're talking about. And you can tell when you read those books that they've gone beyond that.
Right.
You know, so that's my thing. But of course, if you want to write 50 of them, who am I to say no to that? You know, what do you think your like Achilles heel in writing is?
Like, well, what do you mean? Like
where does your editor go, okay, stop doing this? Or like, do you find yourself getting trapped in dialogue and not describing things well, or using shrug? Like, does everybody scowl and you realize when you do control find, there's 500 scowls in your manuscript?
No, I think I'm pretty good with the variations. I think like before I send it to my editor, I mean, obviously I look at it like 1,000 times and I have my husband read it, whatever. So all that like redundancy shit gets taken care of. My problem is I don't know how to fucking use a comma to save my life. And I teach writing. I've been teaching writing for 22 years. And I still, my own self, I can't use a comma.
Get pro writing aid. They'll fix it. They'll throw them in there for you.
Sure. So I'm like, fuck it. You guys take care. Because I don't know.
Well, that's what happened to Chelsea too. Chelsea went from underusing to now overusing. She's in the overusing phase of the comma because.
Well, so now I have the pro writing aid. So it's like, yo, what are you doing with all these commas? Get rid of this. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, but you need one here. And I'm like, well, okay. So it's an amazing software.
Is it really?
It is. My editor is so much happier with me.
Pro writing aid. There you go. Where does one get this?
ProWritingAid.com.
I'm on it.
It's so you go in, you can either pay for it monthly or you can do it yearly like I do. You save like $50 if you pay for it for the whole year. It's like $100 or something like that. Totally worth it. It does every type of genre of writing. If you want business, if you want fiction, nonfiction, emails, absolutely everything. And you can customize it to like your specific phrasing. So like if you use slang or whatever, you can throw it into the dictionary and it won't yell at you for it again. It gives you grades. It tells you how many words should be in your sentences based on your genres. It goes through and tells you if you're using too many like ing started words, or if you've used like if you say the girl, the dog, the whatever 3 times in a row, it's like, hey, you're getting repetitive, switch this out. Like, it's fantastic. It's fantastic stuff.
I'll have to check.
I feel like after all of that, I deserve some type of sponsorship.
You will reach out to them immediately. They can be a sponsor for the DWA podcast. There you go. Well done. Well done.
I have to try.
So, but you wrote to talk about when you wrote, but not your writing area. Were we right on the candles and the seance person in the background? You didn't talk
the flickering
about
light.
You actually write, because otherwise we're leaving it at that, which is kind of interesting.
No, I don't. I have to write in the daytime, real like ass crack of dawn. I got to get up, get it going. No, I don't have any crazy rituals except coffee, iced coffee.
Iced
That's
coffee?
what I run on. So
Music?
No, because then I get distracted and then I start jamming out and then I'm like, fuck, I gotta write. I can't be jamming out and having a concert in my living room. Like, yeah. So I have to be quiet. It's got to be quiet. Like if I hear my husband, I'm actually in his office right now and he works from home. So he's like in the upstairs office and I'm downstairs. If I hear him like on a call, like if I hear the other person talking or him, or if I hear him like tapping on a keyboard, I got to stop. And I'm like, all right, let him finish. Wait till it's quiet. Okay, now I can go back.
So
That
that
is
means you
insanity.
can't write in public places, like you can't go to a coffee shop and write.
Okay, I can go to a coffee shop and plan. I can go and outline. I could do like character model, whatever. But to write like my book, fuck no, I gotta be home.
Wow, interesting.
And leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Don't call me. Don't cell phone me. Nothing.
So you do book outlines and chapter outlines?
Kind of, yeah. Like the book outline is very, very brief. Like I have a beginning and have an end, but then the chapter outlines that I get a little bit more detailed. And then when I sit down to actually write, that's when it all just kind of comes together.
And do you start at chapter 1 and go through?
Yeah, so like I'll do chapter 1. I got a notebook, right? And I have to handwrite it. It can't be typed. Like my chapter outlines have to be handwritten. I'm very OCD. I'm very like super anal about so much shit. So I have a book, ... I'll write down like if I'm hearing voices in my head, which happens often, like the dialogue, I'll put the dialogue down and I'm just like, you know, oh, the moon time, the whatever time, the this time. And then I just go from there. I do my research and all that and like boom, boom, boom.
Do you do a lot of research?
I do, especially for this series because I had to, because a lot of it is based, like the premise is like, it's going to be based on a particular event that happened in history. So like, Witch of the Black Circle, it really centers around the Ricky Casso case in Long Island in the 1980s, how he murdered that dude and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to give away too much, but it actually happened. Like it was a real thing. Like growing up, I was like, oh shit, like this kid killed people. So then the second book is going to be centered around a particular thing. And then the third one will be blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
No, totally, it makes sense. Do you get trapped down the research rabbit hole?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. Sitting and trying to write and then going on the internet, that is, oh God, I shouldn't do that. I'm bad. I get stuck.
No, I understand, especially if you're researching true crime and you're a true crime person.
Oh like, yeah, like okay, then I go to this serial killer and that serial killer and that serial killer. And I'm like, ooh, let me.
You're like, I'm not even writing about serial killers. Let me look it up again.
Exactly. What am I doing?
No, that's why I've made a point when I'm researching. I don't do a lot of research for my books because it's usually like a place. If I've never been there before, I'll go look in like Google Maps so I can see like if I'm describing this, am I describing it correctly, right? So sure. Not an idiot, but on that, but I will not, that's it. Like once I get the answer X, I have to close it down because otherwise I'll be like, let me look at all of these things. And then I'm not writing. I'm just researching cool streets in Boston for some fucking reason that I only need a street and like, what is the name of this street this restaurant's on? Then I'm like looking at the menu and I'm like, oh my fucking God, this is terrible.
And then you're planning out a trip and you're like, can I do this? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Just have your boyfriend change the internet password.
No.
That's what my husband does. That's how I get kicked off the internet.
What who are you, crazy person? Don't make me get some palmetto bugs. I can bring them right into this.
Not you will see a house go up in flames so fast.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Chelsea, I'm going to give you the final question.
I know you're doing this huge series and you have your plan. Do you write a series and go straight through it, or do you get other ideas for other series? Does that make sense? Like, you know, when you're working, so like I'm working on one realm right now. And as I go through, I'm like, okay, this has to get done. I have to do this. And then you have that thought in your head and it's like, hey, what if there was a human bunny. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do a human bunny series. That's not really one, but I just saw a little bunny costume.
Yeah. No. I know exactly what you're saying. And yes, that did happen to me. When I was like my first 3 series, right? So I've got elves, I've got zombies, I've got angels and demons, right? So those are my 3 series that I already have out now. When I was doing the Coal Elf, that's when the idea for the others came to fruition, right? But now that I'm like centered on the world of witches, I don't have anything else on my mind at present time. I'm solely and completely dedicated to this world, and I'm like, I just want to like get all of my ducks in a row and make it happen. I don't have time to think about, I mean, I do, like, I have an idea for like another Bella series, which is like kind of like a spin-off of my zombie, but that's like years away. Like, seriously, I'm concentrated on witches right now.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so what advice would you give authors out there?
I already said it. You gotta have a thick skin. Like, if you do not have that armor plate, Mandalorian, Beskar, like, you are just not gonna make it in this business. You can't let the haters get you down. You can't let bad reviews get you down. You can't let pissy clients get you down. Like, I mean, I'll be at a convention and I'll be legit talking eye to eye with somebody about my book, and they'll just look at me and walk away. Like, you can't let shit like that bother you. Rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection, like that's stuff that like a regular person, after a while, that's gonna really weigh on your soul and really like bring you down. If you want to make it in this business, you can't allow that to happen. You have to have a thick skin. That's it, honestly.
I love it. Okay, tell people how to find you in your books.
www.
Promotion, social media, not your house address. Okay. Jesus.
My website has everything, mariadevivo.com. I'm on TikTok. I have almost 10,000 followers. I'm so excited about that. TikTok, author Maria DeVivo. Instagram, author DeVivo. Facebook, at Maria DeVivo author. Like, if you go to my website, I have a link tree. I love Linktree.
You gotta love Linktree.
Love it. You click it and then boom, 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 everything's there.
That is brilliant, brilliant. And then, so the first book, Witch of the Black Circle, dropped today, correct? Look at that. So pretty.
So excited, so gorgeous.
So that dropped today. And then when is book 2 supposed to come out?
June 5th.
That's exciting.
I'm super excited. That's Witch of the Red Thorn, and that takes us all the way back to Salem.
Very, very cool. Well, you have been fantastic to have on this podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, guys, this has been Drinking with Authors. I've been your host, Erica Lance. My co-host has been C.R. Rice. Our guest has been Maria DeVivo. And our sponsor is Skunk Brothers Spirits. DWA10 is the coupon code. Check them out. And we will see you guys next time.